Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Real Madrid moved atop of Atletico Madrid at the top of the Liga table and sit within 5 points of league leaders Barcelona with a convincing win in the Madrid derby. How did Real Madrid do it? Where did Atletico Madrid go wrong? Don't worry, here with the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to briefly break down how Real Madrid beat Atletico Madrid. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're going to break down the first half, see where Real Madrid found their advantage and were able to really frustrate Atletico Madrid. Then move to the second half and see why nothing really transpired before Real Madrid were able to close out the game. But first, let's get to the starting lineup. So we look at Atletico Madrid, more of a 4-4-2, Morata and Griezmann up front. Out in the wider areas, they went with Correa and Thomas Lemar, and in midfield, they went with Thomas and Saul. Real Madrid, 4-3-3. When we look at them, Benzema, Vinicius, and Lucas Vazquez up front, and in midfield, no real surprise here, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, and Casemiro. So now let's look to the first half, see where Real Madrid found their advantage and how they were able to go into halftime up 2-1. So when we look at Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid, the first thing we have to do is look at the shapes. We know Atletico Madrid are primed for being in a 4-4-2, dropping into two banks of four. They did try to press from the front in the earlier stages, closing down, which made sense because they had the numbers out and up front, and they were able to push the wide players out to the fullbacks to try and ensure that they couldn't play out of the back, and then push Saul and Thomas accordingly to step into those positions. But there was always a threat of Casemiro splitting the defense, the center backs trying to get on the ball, create that 3v2, and shortly as the game wore on, despite causing Madrid a few nervy moments, they did drop into two banks of four, and they had basically the two forwards in Morata and Griezmann sitting near Casemiro, and they had Kroos and Modric up against Thomas and Saul, which made a lot of sense. It was Thomas against Kroos, it was Modric against Saul, and with that being said, as they pushed forward, Reguilon had a good battle against Correa, winning that, and on the opposite side, they had Carvajal against Lemar, and that's how they looked to really push forward. But a lot of Madrid's chances did stem on the counterattack in transition like it did in the Copa del Rey through Vinicius, but when they didn't have the ball, they dropped off, and Atletico Madrid's shape was very interesting because they had the two forwards sitting onto Ramos and sitting onto Varane. They had Lemar and they had Correa tucking into narrow positions, so when they did receive the ball, they didn't really have much space to really do much, and they often were very sloppy, more so Correa and Arias down the right-hand side. They struggled throughout the game, which is no coincidence given the fact that Madrid were able to break down on the left-hand side based on the fact that Lucas Vazquez does offer an offensive threat, but nothing in comparison to Vinicius. He was often dropping back as well. And what we often saw is that when the two wider players tucked in narrow, that created space for Lucas Hernandez and Arias to push forward, and that made sense given the fact that perhaps they want to peg back Vinicius and they wanted to peg back Lucas Vazquez into deeper positions to ensure that they couldn't offer Benzema any service up front when Real Madrid tried to break. That left, like I said, Modric against Saul, Kroos against Thomas, and it left a lot of space here for Casemiro to sit in that deeper role. He often didn't have to do much because Atletico Madrid don't have a natural number 10, so he was cleaning up space in those positions, but he did play a vital role at times because when Correa looked to tuck into those central positions, what ended up happening there was that it forced Ramos to step to him on some occasions, and that eventually left a 3v2. So Casemiro would tuck in and sometimes form a back five to ensure that some player, whether it be Morata or Griezmann, was occupied in those positions. Griezmann liked to float out into wider positions, but he also struggled to get involved and create chances in the final third, and that's kind of how Madrid went about their business. They were able to dominate the midfield zone because Kroos and Modric are great facilitators of the ball, and they're able to retain it well, whereas Thomas and Saul never really got going, and the front three or the front two never really had the service or the combination play to cause the Madrid side of backline any trouble. And like I said, Correa tucking in narrow, they had Ramos step to that, and that was how Real Madrid were able to kind of cope with those situations there. But they did offer a threat in transition, more so down the left-hand side, and we saw it earlier on when Kroos was able to drop off into a deeper position to pick up the ball, often most of the time moving into the left channel. He was able to play the ball to Reguilon, and that forced Arias to step to him, and when Arias stepped to him, what happens is that he saw Benzema dropping into that left into that channel as well. He played it into Benzema, was able to turn on Thomas and push forward. But that's what we saw from Real Madrid. Benzema still being involved, dropping deeper, more so moving to the flank to link play, try to create an overload, try to create space for Vinicius to break forward. And that's how Madrid were really going about their business in that sense. But like I said, what Atletico Madrid did, and their shape was pivotal, because what happened was, like I said, they pushed the wider players narrow. That allowed space for the fullbacks to get forward, but it also left space for Real Madrid to break on the counterattack. When we look to one of their first opportunities, it's Reguilon stepping to Arias, and as he steps to him, he tries to play a pass into Correa. That was the first time we saw Ramos step to him. Ramos was able to press him, and Varane instantly clipped the loose ball into the left channel for Vinicius, and he was able to break forward, and he instantly wrapped the ball around the center backs for Lucas Vazquez, breaking into the box, but he wasn't able to guide his effort on goal. But it was a warning. It showed that if Real Madrid could win the ball quickly, they had an outlet down that left channel, and that was Vinicius. And like he did in the Copa del Rey game, he was able to constantly break forward down that left-hand side, and that was one opportunity. Another one where we did see a flick from Correa end up falling to Casemiro, and again, he clips it out to that left-hand side for Vinicius, who drops it off to Benzema in the left channel. What happens is that forces Jimenez to step to him, because Jimenez often had to pick up the space that Arias left available. When he steps into that space, we see Vinicius run in behind him and get the ball back from Benzema, and that again forced what we have is Godin stepping out to him, and in a 1v1 battle, you're going to bet on Vinicius to get the better of him, and here he did, cutting on the outside, but his pull back was cleared, and that again shows how they're able to break down the left-hand side, monopolizing that space, forcing the center backs out of position, and that was how they're able to push into that space. On another occasion, we saw Correa play a loose pass into Arias, and we saw Reguilon step into that pass, and he played it out to Benzema, who again slid into that left-sided position, and when he stepped there, you again see Jimenez push out into that role because Arias is high, and what happens there is that Vinicius locates that, and he again makes the run into that left channel to receive the ball from Benzema, this time going up against Godin again, but when he tried to move to the outside, Godin was much smarter, gave him a bit more space, and was able to shove him out of position to ensure that the ball went out for a goal kick. But with that being said, after Real Madrid did go ahead through a Casemiro overhead kick from a set piece, what led to the second goal, or the build-up to the penalty for the second goal, saw the same issue here. This time it was Arias playing a poor pass into Correa, who was narrow, and instead of Ramos stepping in, it was Casemiro who stepped into that pass, and the ball was shifted out to Vinicius, who found Cruz, and Cruz on that left channel was able to pull out Thomas Partey. When he pulls out Thomas Partey, Vinicius runs in behind him to get that ball in that left channel, this time pulling out Jimenez, but here he's able to beat him. He's able to beat him for pace and drive forward, and as he drives forward past Jimenez into that box, Jimenez fouls him, and that leads to the penalty that Ramos was able to convert. But when you break down all the chances that Real Madrid did create, a lot of it stemmed from transition. It exploited the space in those channels, more so in behind Arias, where they're able to break through Vinicius, pull out Jimenez, get those 1v1 battles against the center backs who don't want to be higher up the pitch, and utilize his space to cause them problems. They did end up getting a goal prior to that, because Madrid went into the half up 2-1, and that stemmed from, again, who was involved, Vinicius, but this time was Correa who was able to dispossess him and in Atletico Madrid's half, and he was able to push forward. And this was just a breakdown from Real Madrid, because you have the back three with Casemiro dropping into that space, because when Casemiro drops into that space, you're able to push Carvajal and Reguilon forward. Here he stepped out into that space, and when Correa pushes forward with that ball, he's able to slide the ball in between Casemiro and Ramos, because what happens there, he sees Griezmann making the run in between Varane and Casemiro to break forward. Griezmann is onside, and he's able to break forward 1v1 of Courtois and slide his effort past the keeper. But besides that, Atletico Madrid didn't really create any chances. Like we mentioned on a few occasions, sloppy passes down the right-hand side. Madrid were able to get into a good shape without the ball, press the midfielders out of the game, and they weren't really tested in their third of the pitch. Whereas, like I said, Madrid were able to break on the counterattack in transition, loads of space in the channels, and they were able to exploit Jimenez and Godin in 1v1 situations, and were worthy of their 2-1 lead going into halftime. So now let's get to the second half, see if anything changed, and how Madrid were able to kill off the game. The second half really worked well into Madrid's favor based off the fact that it was very stop and go, lots of fouls, lots of bookings, and Real Madrid really enjoyed that because it ensured that Atletico never really got a rhythm. They did, however, have a good opening 15 minutes where they were able to get into good positions, but the issue here was that they were unable to really test Courtois. We saw in the opening stages where even Cruz made a mistake in midfield and clipped the ball off Saul, and it saw Griezmann get the ball, and it allowed him to slide the ball into Morata with Carvajal trying to recover, but his first touch was poor, and he fired a shot over the net. Top center forward should be able to finish that, but Morata wasn't able to do that on that occasion. But he did get another opportunity, and it came from a route one play. No one really putting any pressure on Jimenez, and he's able to clip the ball over the Real Madrid defense. And we saw Morata make a run in between Varane and in between Sergio Ramos to get the ball at the edge of the box with Courtois coming out, and he was able to chip the Belgian goalkeeper. However, when we looked at the replay, it did show that Morata was slightly offside and the goal was disallowed. But again, that's another opportunity they did have. It was shocking that they never really went down that route more often, trying to play a bit more direct into Morata, but that was a good opportunity where they were able to bypass the Real Madrid defense. And the final one came from a set piece where Thomas Partey scooped his free kick into the box, and you had Morata flick it on to right half space where Jimenez was able to get onto it. But again, from a difficult angle, you're not going to be a goalkeeper at the level of Courtois from that position, and Courtois was able to push the ball over the net. But they continued to struggle. Madrid dropped off a bit deeper. They were very cagey. They were forced into some fouls, but they never really were breached from a defensive aspect. Let's go try to make some changes. They brought on Vitolo for Lamar. They pushed out. They replaced Correa with Rodri, and they pushed Rodri into midfield and pushed Saul out into wider areas, whereas Real Madrid only brought on Bale for Vinicius, and to no surprise, again, down the left-hand side, Real Madrid were able to punish them, and this time was just simple build-up play from Real Madrid. Benzema dragging out Arias as he dropped deeper to link play with Luka Modric. Modric was able to push forward and bypass the Atletico Madrid midfield, and now you have that space where Arias was tucked out of position for Bale to exploit. And as he tries to recover, Modric is able to slide the ball in between him and Jimenez for Bale. And you do have Jimenez trying to come across, but he's not able to recover. And you had Bale slide his effort past the keeper, All Black, into the far corner. And that was lights out. That was the game. Real Madrid had a game plan. They saw that Atletico Madrid were pushing their fullbacks forward. They were able to exploit space down that left-hand side. When you look at it, they were continuously having Vinicius dominate that area, and to kill off the game, Gareth Bale was able to convert from that position. But Karim Benzema does deserve credit. His movement throughout, moving out to the left-hand side in that position, pulling out Arias to create the space for Bale, and this is what Real Madrid is all about. And now they move into second place to put some pressure on league leaders Barcelona. But let me know what you guys think. Will Atletico Madrid win a title this season, any sort of trophy, and does this put a lot of pressure on Diego Simeone? And what about Real Madrid? What will they achieve this season, and how far can they go both in pushing Barcelona to the title and in the Champions League? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.